Welcome back, everybody. We're so glad you're here. Welcome back. Let me just say, this is one of those exit ramps where we stop being goofy for a little while and we do something that we think is important. It's something that affects every woman as they get older, but is rarely talked about. That's why we wanted to talk about. Menopause still remains a taboo subject for a variety of reasons, but it doesn't have to. It doesn't have to, no. Joining Falen and I today is someone ready to talk about it. Give it up for Dr. Cassie Wilder, everybody. Cassie, hey, Cassie. Doctor, can we start off with what Falen and I just learned? Doctor thought, this proves what a pro you are. Doctor thought that she was booked for Falen's radio show. She didn't know she was going to be on television. So yeah.
Look how good she is. I would never show up like that, looking that good for radio.
You look real. You are TV ready.
In the day of social content and YouTube,
That's true.
I just assumed. Here we are.
Love it that is, oh, I love it. Let me start off, and Falen is going to understandably anchor most of the conversation. Why isn't, I'm going to go off of what I just said, why isn't this more talked about?
I think it's not talked about because prior to social media being a big thing, women just didn't share this experience about their life with other women. They didn't talk about it at the dinner table. They didn't talk to their kids about it. They just kind of ignored it or went through it silently. And I think our younger generations are just, we're here for it. We're going to be talking about it, and we're going to change how it's perceived.
Are you seeing a change? Are you, even if it's glacial, are you seeing, and I think a lot of subjects are like that, and talk shows help with that. I mean,
Absolutely.
we didn't talk about stuff that were taboo in the 70s. Talk shows came along, and suddenly we're talking about infidelity and abuse. Are you seeing movement about this topic even glacially?
Absolutely. And I think the more patients become informed about their options, they are bringing it up to their providers and pushing them to be better. So the more we can inform patients, the more that they can bring it back and make the rest of us better.
One of the things, like as I'm, getting older, I was telling Jason and Jeff earlier, I don't think I heard the phrase perimenopause until the past year of my life. I've heard menopause, but I never heard perimenopause ever. I don't know why that is. So my question is, what is perimenopause and how early can it start? I hear rumors it can go on for like 7 or 8 years. Is that true? Because that's a long time.
It could go on longer.
It can go on longer, great.
So perimenopause is the change, is the transition through. So you have normal cycling, then you're going through perimenopause as your hormones shift and change, and then once you hit menopause is when that's going to be the lasting, what's going to be for the rest of your life, where the hormones are much lower than what they were previously.
So how early can that start?
That change, we see hormone values changing as early as 35. I would say a lot of the symptoms and a lot of the perimenopausal shifts that women will experience themselves might not pop up until 45.
Okay. And what
regretting that grandpa comment now, aren't you?
Oh, listen, women age much quicker than men do in the world. Okay, people want to know what are some of the signs, because I feel like everyone talks about hot flashes, and that's like the only thing you hear about really. So what are some of the early symptoms that you're like, oh, something seems different?
Hot flashes show up in a large majority of women, but actually not all. You can see things like mood changes, like increased anxiety, increased rates of depression, irritability, being really snippy, having a low tolerance for BS, I guess, if I'm allowed to say that. Sleeplessness, so increases insomnia. There are so many, hair loss, there's so many different things, weight gain that can be attributed to perimenopause that they're just not the typical night sweats, hot flashes that maybe you'll read about on Google.
Doctor, does it drive you crazy that we were talking about hot flashes and there's an eye roll inducing thing? Does it drive you nuts that is basically the headline / punchline of what you deal with?
That's a hard one to answer. Not as much, because I think patients need to be able to recognize it within themselves, but I think that there's so much more to it.
Okay, I don't have the exact statistic in front of me, but I was like reading an article the other day, and it said something along the lines of 40% of women going through like the hormone change are diagnosed by their doctor as having depression or anxiety. Then they're placed on medication for depression or anxiety, when in fact it's a hormone shift and they shouldn't be on that medication. They should be addressing menopause.
Absolutely. Literally took the words out of my mouth. Yeah.
That's insane to me. So people are being placed on medication they do not need at all when it's a totally different issue.
I think one of the hard parts about that is that hormones will shift on blood work, but they're not being routinely checked. And so in our office, we are routinely checking hormones in a younger generation, where you might show up to your doctor and say that you're having depression, and they may not think of it as hormonal. They really look at it as just a neurotransmitter-based disorder, and they're not thinking about the other factors. You know, outside of hormones, there are several things that can cause increased rates of depression, but if they even do that lab work, it might not even show up that you're in perimenopause yet. It might still take 4, 5, 6 years before your blood levels start changing to even notice that you're in perimenopause and for them to make an accurate diagnosis for you.
We have more with Dr. Cassie, including questions that you have for her when we come back, right after this. Great. You're doing great, even though you thought it was radio.
Let's make it a good day. We do it our own way. Yeah, let's make it a good.
We're back with Dr. Cassie. I love when we do these. We stop down, we stop being goofy for a little while. Let me ask you, as the resident dude here, what can husbands do? What can friends do? What can family members do? But mainly significant others to be supportive. What are they doing wrong, perhaps, and what can they do to be better with it?
I think one that you hit on is just to be supportive. One big thing I will note, I'll hear from patients as they're going through this, that they'll tell me is that they feel like a completely different person inside their body. The person that they felt and the person that they feel now, it's kind of like something else is inhabiting their physical form.
Really?
So I think for partners is just being understanding that not only is, your partner changing both physiologically and how those neurotransmitters and how those hormones are changing in her body, she's getting used to that new body too. And so just being that ultimate support system is really the best thing that you can do.
Because there is a reason why I coupled that with my last question of I asked about the punchline for a very specific reason, because I think I'm not saying everybody, but I think some guys, because we don't know, they think, you're just, it is a punchline, and they don't take it seriously because they don't understand it. They don't mean to judge, but they don't have the information, so they think, you're just exaggerating.
Yeah.
But it can be that. It's eye-opening for me. I didn't know this.
I know a lot of people want to know, okay, how can we actually address the symptoms? Is there an affordable way to do that? And I actually was like Googling, because so many people wrote the letters HRT, and I was like, what is HRT? And I was Googling that before this because I didn't know about it. So maybe you can get into that a little bit too.
Yeah, I think before we get into that, just one quick thing is that ultimately it's the woman's choice on how she chooses to treat herself during this time frame. There is a range of things you can do, from absolutely nothing to more dietary approaches to supplemental herbal approaches to HRT. They've all got their pros, they've all got their cons, and really sitting down with someone who knows what the heck they're talking about is going to be the best way to make that informed decision for yourself. But getting to your answer, HRT is hormone replacement therapy. So during perimenopause, your hormones are starting to this gentle slope down. And actually, I like to describe it as kind of like a toddler at a dimmer switch, that one day they'll be really high, one day they'll be really low, and then you might be low for a couple of weeks and then go really high. And so HRT can really help balance that out, where you get this even keel of hormone distribution every single day, and it can help even out your moods, out your sleep, and so it can just make you kind of feel a little bit better. There's obviously pros and cons to HRT, and there's so many different methods to do it. And when you say affordability, there are affordable ways that your insurance may or may not cover, or may cover. And if it doesn't, there are cash-based ways that are affordable to get hormone replacement therapy.
Okay. Also, people asked, How long can you stay on that?
Forever.
Because, okay, you can forever.
Yes.
Okay, that's
as long as you want, you can stay on it.
Okay. We've talked about some of the side effects like the weight gain, the hair loss. People said joint pain.
Yep.
One of my friends said, I'm not kidding, also really bad gas. And I said I didn't know about the bad gas, but yeah, she was like, I'm not kidding.
Yeah.
And she DM'd me that. But I think the top one, obviously the hair loss and the weight gain, I'm gonna guess, is really, really what bothers women. So why can't you lose weight?
Yeah.
Well, if you want to.
As estrogen is coming down and ultimately gets to a deficient state, estrogen has such an integral role in your brain and on your hypothalamus and creating that metabolic set point for you. So at an estrogen deficiency state, your brain doesn't have that same way of saying, all right, you've got some energy to burn, go ahead and burn it. It can also change peptides in your gut that actually will stimulate hunger and stimulate your body's ability to say, like, I'm actually hungry, or no, I'm thirsty, or you mentioned gas too. It can actually change the makeup of your microbiome, that we actually know parts of your microbiome are responsible for helping your cells stay sensitive to insulin, which regulates your blood sugar. And so obviously weight is a complicated thing to kind of mess with, but thinking about metabolism, thinking about muscle mass, estrogen deficiency will actually make it more difficult for you to maintain your muscle mass and get more muscle mass. And so it's just, you're at a disadvantage, and that's what makes it really difficult to lose weight.
We're going to talk to our studio audience. They have some questions when we come back. Back in a moment. Welcome back. Going into the audience, continuing our conversation about menopause. We're in the audience to get some questions for Dr. Cassie. What's your name?
Leanne.
Hi, Leanne. What's your question?
My question is there a certain age that young women should start looking into their levels?
As young as you want. As soon as it starts becoming a problem where you're feeling different in your body, I absolutely think that it is the time to be running your hormone levels.
And it can be any age.
Any age.
Wow. I mean, just hearing when you said 35 earlier, to me again, as and I'm not making an ignorant guy about these things, that's shocking to me that it was 30. The perception, the societal perception is it's a 50s or 60s thing.
Yep.
Also, you're not an ignorant guy, Jason. I don't know this about my own body. I'm an actual woman, you know? So, like, I would say there's a level of ignorance in all of us because it just isn't talked about.
Oh, I know. Again, I'm not making. I saw your face, and I'm like, if Fallon is surprised, I'm okay being surprised. Hi, sweetie. What's your name?
Lori.
Lori, what's your question?
So I'm wondering about the HRT for people maybe in their 60s or 70s. Have you seen them start that to help with those symptoms?
The general recommendation is 10 years. So if you had 12 years without a period, and that would start your first diagnosis of menopause, we usually give you 10 years. And then if you haven't started HRT in that 10-year window, the risk-benefit ratio might not be in your favor, but I would always have a conversation with your doc.
Another question. What's your name?
Does it raise your chances of breast cancer? Because they told us they're like, none for you.
That actually got debunked. The previous studies that they were doing were using conjugated equine estrogens, which did in fact raise rates of breast cancer, and the forms that they're using now do not carry those same risks. So when you're looking at options, I generally recommend bioidentical hormone replacement therapy, which has actually a lot of breast protective benefits.
Yeah, Doctor, and Fallon, back me up. I think you got a couple of these questions, and if we cover this again, my apologies, but talk about libido. Didn't you get a couple questions from the listeners?
I mean, it was from a mixture of men and women. Men were like, how can I be supportive of my partner when the libido's down? And some women were just like, yeah, I don't know how to fix that.
I mean, menopause is more than just about estrogen deficiency. Your ovaries also create a portion of your testosterone as well. And testosterone, we know, is really integral to libido and kind of having that pilot light lit. So whenever there's an opportunity to fan that pilot light and make it a true fire, it's there. And so thinking about testosterone is also part of your HRT mix, especially in females. It's not just for men, is going to be a really huge piece.
Okay.
Can I ask too, and I don't mean to put you on the spot, and maybe you won't have a lot of answers right off the top of your head. We just had Stephanie Hansen on, our foodie, talking about things maybe you shouldn't say, phrases, things that aren't real supportive for folks dealing with breast cancer. And I had another woman who was a widow. Is there anything, again, I want to end how I began, that a spouse or a partner, they should stay away from? Are there trigger questions? Are there phrases that they shouldn't say if they want to be supportive?
Well, I would punch you if you said it's all in your head, so maybe stay away from that
one. Anything else, doctor?
I have heard a lot from patient anecdotally from their stories that their doctors will say, oh, you're just a tired mom of 3. Of course you're tired. Ooh. This can't be perimenopause. And that's extremely unprofessional and inappropriate, and I would encourage you to find another doctor, but that would also be something that I would very much steer clear of. If anyone's telling you that your symptoms aren't real, that if it's not, if you're experiencing them, they are very much real.
If people want to get a hold of you, and of course we'll put this on the Jason Show YouTube and socials, how can people get a hold of you, doctor?
We are local to the Twin Cities. Our clinic is in Wayzata. Our name is Minneapolis Integrative Medicine Center. And we opened up 7 years ago. Our birthday is actually 2 days ago, so it's been a fun journey.
Congratulations.
Yeah,
I was going to end on that. There's the website at the bottom of your screen. And if you're watching us from around the country, find a clinic near you, hop on the Google and get to a professional. Get to the Google. That's right. Give it up for the doctor, everybody. Thank you so much. We appreciate you. It's an important conversation. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back. Back in a moment, everybody.